The transport ship carrying the human delegation descended through the docking bay of Station Kepler, 442B, with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Chief Sarah Morrison stood near the airlock, her hands clasped behind her back, watching her team perform final equipment checks. 20 security personnel, all former military, all handpicked. They wore simple gray uniforms with minimal insignia, but each carried themselves with the unmistakable bearing of soldiers who had seen real combat. Ambassador Chen straightened his jacket and offered Morrison a weary smile. Try not to scare them too much on the first day. Morrison's expression didn't change. We're here to do a job, sir, not to make friends. The airlock opened and they stepped into a world that seemed pulled from a dream. The station's interior gleamed with surfaces that shifted between colors humans didn't have names for. The air smelled faintly of something like cinnamon mixed with ozone. And waiting to greet them was Director Velshara. She stood nearly 7 feet tall on 4 legs that bent in ways that made human knees seem like poor engineering. Her torso split into 4 arms, each ending in 3-fingered hands that moved with liquid grace. Her head was angular, covered in a chitinous shell that reflected the station's strange light, and her compound eyes caught every detail of the arriving humans. Welcome, Velshara said, her voice produced by some mechanism the humans couldn't see. You are the first of your species to begin integration protocols. We are honored. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, extending his hand in greeting. Velshara studied the gesture for a moment before extending one of her own hands to grasp his. The other species present, dozens of them moving through the docking area, stopped to watch. Some had tentacles, others had scales or fur or skin that seemed to shift like liquid metal. Humans were, without question, the newest and strangest faces here. We're honored to be considered for coalition membership, Chen said. We hope this integration period goes smoothly. It will, Velshara assured him. We have processed 347 species over the past millennia. The protocols are quite refined. Her compound eyes shifted to Morrison and the security team. Though I notice you brought a considerable security presence. Standard procedure, Morrison said simply. Velshara's head tilted in what might have been confusion. I see. Well, you will find our security systems more than adequate. Come, I will show you. They walked through corridors that seemed to have no seams or joints. Everything flowed together like the station had been grown rather than built. Every 100 meters or so, they passed through a checkpoint. Each consisted of an archway that glowed with soft blue light. As each being passed through, the light would pulse once, and they would continue without breaking stride. These are our security scanners, Velshara explained, gesturing to one of the archways with 2 of her hands. They read quantum resonance biosignatures. Every living being has a unique signature that cannot be replicated or disguised. The scanners know every authorized individual on this station and will immediately detect any anomaly. Morrison stopped, studying the archway carefully. She walked around it, examining it from every angle. What's the backup system? Backup? Velshara's antennae twitched. If the scanner fails. What's the secondary security measure?
The scanners do not fail, Velshara said, and there was something in her tone that suggested she was trying to explain something obvious to a child.
The technology has been refined over thousands of years. We have not had a single security breach in 347 standard years. Morrison's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Nothing is perfect. These are, Velshara said with absolute confidence. You will find no guards posted anywhere on this station. They are unnecessary, the tour continued. They were shown their quarters, the diplomatic areas, the recreational facilities, and the various cultural centers where humans would learn about coalition society. Throughout it all, Morrison noticed the pattern. Checkpoints everywhere, but never a single guard. Just archways that glowed blue and apparently knew everything. When they returned to the human quarters, Ambassador Chen dismissed everyone except Morrison. He poured himself a drink from the station's synthesizer, which produced something that looked like whiskey but probably wasn't. I know that look, Chen said. You're about to do something that will make my job harder. Morrison pulled out a datapad and began making notes. With respect, sir, my job is to keep everyone safe, not to make your job easier. The coalition has gone nearly 4 centuries without a security incident. That they know of, Morrison corrected. A perfect security record usually means either incredible security or incredible ignorance about breaches. Chen sighed. You're going to post guards, aren't you? At every checkpoint, armed starting tonight. The Coalition will see it as an insult. Like we don't trust them. Morrison looked up from her datapad and Chen saw something hard in her eyes. I don't trust them, sir. Or more accurately, I don't trust their systems. I've seen too many perfect systems fail. They've been doing this for thousands of years. Sarah, and we've been surviving for thousands of years by not assuming anything is foolproof. She returned to her datapad. I'll try to be diplomatic about it, but the guards go up. Within 6 hours, human guards were posted at every major checkpoint in the human section of the station. They stood in pairs, rifles held at ease but ready, eyes constantly scanning. The reaction from the Coalition species was immediate. Morrison was in the middle of reviewing duty rosters when Velshara arrived at her office. The director's forearms were held in positions that Morrison's crash course in Coalition body language suggested indicated confusion and possibly offense. Chief Morrison, I have received numerous reports of armed human soldiers standing at security checkpoints. Yes, ma'am. Standard security protocol. But the checkpoints are already secured. The scanners are infallible. Morrison gestured to a chair, though Velshara's body structure meant she had to arrange herself differently than humans would. Director, with respect, there's no such thing as infallible. Every system can fail. Every system can be compromised. Not these systems, Velshara insisted. Do you understand the sophistication involved? The scanners read quantum states that cannot be duplicated or hidden. The mathematical probability of failure is less than 1 in 10 to the 18th power. But not 0, Morrison said quietly. Velshara's antennae drooped slightly. You truly do not trust them. It's not personal, Director. It's experience. Humans have a saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst. We hope your scanners work perfectly. We plan for the possibility that they won't. This is because your species is so young, Velshara said, not unkindly. You have not known the peace that comes with truly advanced technology. You still think like prey animals, always watching for threats. Morrison's expression hardened slightly. Maybe. Or maybe we've survived as long as we have because we watch for threats. The guards stay, Director. The meeting ended without resolution. Velshara left, clearly troubled, and Morrison returned to her rosters. Outside her office, through the transparent wall, she could see Private Jenkins standing at the nearest checkpoint. The young guard stood straight, eyes alert, watching every being that passed through the glowing archway. The scanners pulsed their soft blue light, detecting and identifying each passerby with perfect accuracy. And beside each scanner, a human guard stood watch, trusting nothing but their own eyes and instincts. The Coalition might have centuries of perfect peace, but Morrison had decades of hard-won wisdom, and wisdom said that the day you stopped watching was the day something went wrong. The council chamber was designed to accommodate hundreds of species, which meant it looked like no meeting room humans had ever seen. Seating arrangements spiraled outward from a central platform, with provisions for beings that sat, stood, floated, or reclined in pools of liquid. The lighting shifted constantly to accommodate different visual spectrums, giving humans a mild headache after extended exposure. Ambassador Chen sat in the human delegation area, Morrison standing behind him like a statue. Around them, representatives from dozens of Coalition species murmured in languages that the translation devices struggled to convey with full nuance. The mood was tense. Coordinator Thexal, a being that looked like a column of crystalline structures held together by some force humans didn't understand, spoke with a voice like wind chimes. We convene this session to address concerns regarding the human security presence. Director Velshara, please present the issue. Velshara stood, her forearms moving in formal gestures. The human delegation has posted armed guards at numerous checkpoints throughout their section. These guards stand beside our security scanners, weapons ready as if expecting an attack. Multiple species have expressed discomfort with this display of weaponry in what should be a peaceful integration environment. A serpentine delegate named Sisaratha raised her head from her coiled body. It suggests the humans do not trust our security. This is offensive to the Coalition and to the species who designed these systems. It implies we are either incompetent or hostile, added another delegate, a being whose name humans couldn't pronounce. Neither is acceptable. Ambassador Chen rose smoothly. Honored delegates, I assure you no offense is intended. Human security protocols simply require redundancy in all systems. We mean no disrespect to Coalition technology. Then why the guards? Thexel asked simply. Chen glanced back at Morrison, who gave him a slight nod. Perhaps Chief Morrison can explain better than I can. She has considerably more experience in these matters. Morrison stepped forward and the chamber quieted. Something about the way she moved made even species who had never met a human before understand she was dangerous. Not threatening, just capable. Delegates, Morrison began. Humans have a long history with security systems. We've built many that we thought were perfect. Every single one eventually failed. Your technology is primitive compared to ours, Velshara said. We do not mean offense, but it is simply fact. You have been in space for less than 2 centuries. We have been secure for millennia. That's exactly my concern, Morrison replied. How long has it been since you actually tested your security? Not ran diagnostics, but genuinely stress-tested it against determined opposition? The chamber filled with confused murmuring. Thexal's crystalline structure chimed softly. There is no opposition to test against. We are at peace. Morrison nodded slowly. Let me tell you a story from human history. We built a ship called the Titanic. Engineers said it was unsinkable. They were so confident they didn't put enough lifeboats on board. On its first voyage, it hit an iceberg and sank. 1,500 people died because everyone trusted the engineers who said failure was impossible. A tragic story, Sisratha said. But what relevance does it have? We built a defensive line called the Maginot Line, Morrison continued. Supposedly impenetrable. The enemy simply went around it. We created encryption systems that were mathematically unbreakable. Hackers broke them in weeks. We designed buildings that couldn't collapse in earthquakes. They collapsed. Every time humans have said something is impossible to fail, someone or something has proven us wrong. A delegate from the Velshara's own species spoke up. But our technology is proven. 347 years without incident. Morrison's expression hardened slightly. That's either the best security in the galaxy, or you've had incidents you didn't detect. From a human perspective, a system that never reports failures is more suspicious than one that occasionally catches threats. Ambassador Chen winced slightly, but Morrison pressed on. Humans have never gone more than 50 years without a major war. We've had to constantly adapt, constantly improve, constantly question our own systems. We've learned the hard way that overconfidence kills people. Morrison's voice carried the weight of personal experience. I lost a team once because someone said a building was secure. The scanner showed clear. The AI said no threats, but someone got through anyway and killed 11 of my people before we stopped them. I will never again trust a system that says it's perfect. The chamber fell silent. Velshara's antennae moved in patterns that suggested deep thought. Thexal's structure pulsed with different colors. You are saying we have become complacent. I'm saying that peace makes it hard to stay vigilant, Morrison replied. That's not a criticism. It's just reality. How many of your security personnel have ever dealt with an actual threat? How many of them would even recognize a breach if they saw one? Or would they assume the scanners would catch it? Our scanners would catch it, Velshara insisted, but her voice lacked its earlier certainty. Maybe, Morrison said. But what if they don't? What if someone finds the one flaw no one's looked for because everyone assumes there are no flaws? Who's watching then? A younger delegate, from a species that had only joined the coalition a few centuries prior, spoke hesitantly. The human makes a logical point. Our species had perfect seismic prediction technology. Until the planet Vexnar experienced quakes our sensors never detected. 8,000 died. Other younger species began murmuring. The older coalition members, those who had known peace for dozens of generations, looked uncomfortable. Sesaratha's scales rippled with agitation. Are you suggesting we abandon our security systems? No, Morrison said firmly. I am suggesting you don't rely on them exclusively. Automated systems are excellent, but they should be verified by living beings with judgment and intuition. Things that can't be programmed. You want us to post guards like primitives, one delegate said scornfully. I want you to have a backup plan, Morrison corrected. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. The scanners are probably fine. But if they're not, having someone physically present to notice could save lives. Velshara stood again, her forearms moving in complex patterns. I begin to understand the human perspective. They have survived as a species not by building perfect defenses, but by assuming every defense will eventually fail and preparing accordingly. Paranoia disguised as wisdom. Sisratha hissed. Wisdom earned through suffering. Chen interjected quietly. Every security measure Chief Morrison mentioned came about because of a disaster we failed to prevent. We're not trying to insult anyone. We're trying to share what we learned in blood. Thexal's structure dimmed and brightened. The Council will consider this matter. In the interim, the human guards may remain, though we request they maintain a less aggressive posture. They'll holster weapons except during active threats, Morrison offered, but they stay at the checkpoints. The session concluded without resolution, but Morrison noticed something as they left. Several of the younger delegates approached their seniors asking questions. Velshara stood alone on her platform, staring at the security checkpoint at the chamber entrance where a human guard and a coalition scanner both monitored the exit. Later, in the human quarters, Chen poured himself another drink. You made some enemies in there today. Maybe, Morrison said, reviewing the day's security logs on her datapad. But I also made some of them think. That's worth it. Is it really paranoia if you're just being prepared? Morrison looked up and Chen saw something haunted in her eyes. After you've scraped your friends' bodies off a floor, Ambassador, it stops being paranoia and starts being common sense. The Coalition has been lucky for a long time, but luck runs out. You really think something will happen? Morrison returned to her datapad. I think that assuming nothing will happen is how you guarantee something does. We'll keep watch and hope we're wasting our time. Private Marcus Jenkins had been standing at Gate 7 for 3 hours. His feet hurt, his shoulders ached from holding perfect posture, and he had watched approximately 400 beings pass through the security scanner in front of him. Each time the archway pulsed blue, the Coalition system verified the individual, and they continued on their way without incident. It was, Jenkins thought, possibly the most boring assignment of his military career. A Velsharan engineer stopped to talk with him. She had learned that her name translated roughly to Swift Wind, though Jenkins suspected something was lost in translation. She had taken to bringing him a beverage during her shifts that tasted like spiced chocolate and made his heart race in ways coffee never had. You are still here, Swift Wind said, offering him the cup. Still here, Jenkins agreed, accepting it gratefully. Thanks. The scanners have not failed. Nope. They will not fail. Probably not, Jenkins said, taking a sip. He smiled at her. But I'll be here if they do. Swift Wind's antennae moved in patterns Jenkins had learned meant amusement. Humans are strange, but I think I begin to understand. You would rather stand watch forever than miss the one moment you are needed. Something like that. She moved on to her duties and Jenkins returned to his watch. Another 100 beings passed. The scanner pulsed blue, 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 a steady rhythm that should have been reassuring. Jenkins found it hypnotic instead, and he forced himself to focus, to actually look at each individual rather than just watch the scanner. That's when he saw it. A Coalition member, species unknown to Jenkins, passed through the archway. The scanner pulsed blue as expected. But for just a fraction of a second, so brief Jenkins almost thought he imagined it, the blue flickered. Like a light bulb about to burn out or a hologram glitching, Jenkins keyed his comm. Gate 7 to Chief Morrison. Morrison here. Ma'am, I just saw something weird with the scanner. The blue light flickered for a second when someone passed through. There was a pause. Did it turn red? Did any alarm trigger? No, ma'am. It stayed blue. But it flickered. Like it hiccuped. Can you identify who passed through? Jenkins tried to remember. Negative, ma'am. Happened too fast and I don't know all the species yet. Looked kind of like a tall lizard, maybe? Sorry, ma'am. Don't apologize. Keep watching. Note any other anomalies. I'm coming to your position. Morrison arrived within 10 minutes, Lieutenant Zhao in tow. Zhao was the team's technical specialist, a former intelligence operative who could hack systems most people didn't know existed. She immediately pulled out a scanner of her own and began examining the archway. Tell me exactly what you saw, Morrison said. Jenkins walked her through it, feeling slightly foolish. It had been such a small thing, barely noticeable. But Morrison listened intently, asking detailed questions about timing, appearance, and his exact line of sight. You did good work, Private, Morrison said finally. Keep your eyes open. Over the next few days, Jenkins wasn't the only one to report strange observations. Corporal Okonko at Gate 3 saw a similar flicker. Sergeant Davis at Gate 12 reported that a being seemed to blur for a microsecond while passing through. Every time, the scanners reported normal operation. Every time, the Coalition sensors detected no anomalies. Zhao spent days analyzing the scanner systems, much to the frustration of the coalition engineers, who insisted everything was functioning perfectly. She set up monitoring equipment, recorded thousands of passages, and ran analysis programs that made her eyes red from staring at screens. Morrison found her in the makeshift tech lab on day 16, surrounded by holographic displays showing endless streams of data. "Tell me you found something," Morrison said. "I found something," Zhao replied, "but you're not going to like it." She pulled up a visual representation of the scanner's operation. The coalition scanners are incredibly sophisticated. They read biosignatures at the quantum level, which is way beyond current human technology. But there's a thing called a refresh rate, like on a computer screen. Similar concept. The scanner has to process the quantum data it receives, verify it against the database, and make a decision. That process takes time. Very little time, 0.003 seconds, but it's there. During that refresh, there's a gap, a tiny window where the scanner is processing the previous signature and not actively reading. Morrison's jaw tightened. A blind spot. Technically, yes. But the coalition engineers insist it's irrelevant. Nothing biological can move fast enough or change signatures quickly enough to exploit a 3-millisecond window. Their math checks out. It should be impossible. Should be. The guards are reporting anomalies that happen during this refresh window, Zhao continued. I've matched the timestamps. Every single flicker, every blur, occurs during those 3 milliseconds. So, something is exploiting it. Maybe. Or the guards are just noticing. The normal refresh cycle and our human brains are pattern matching something that isn't there. 3 milliseconds is right at the edge of human perception. We might just be seeing the system work as designed. Morrison stared at the data streams. But you don't believe that. Zhao rubbed her eyes. I found something else. The scanner software receives regular updates from a centralized coalition network. 47 updates over 347 years, which is pretty stable. But here's the thing. The updates are automatic. An AI reviews them and implements them. No living being verifies the code. Who writes the updates? A team of programmers from the original species that designed the system. At least that's what the documentation says. But the actual update packages, they come from the network. I can't trace them back beyond the central hub. Someone could be compromising the updates. It would take decades of planning and incredible sophistication. You'd have to compromise the central network, fake authentication from trusted programmers, and write code that enhances the blind spot without being detected by diagnostics. But it's possible. Zhao met Morrison's eyes. Everything's possible, Chief. That's why we're standing here. Morrison called a meeting with Velshara. The director arrived looking tired, which was surprising because Jenkins had learned that Velshara's species rarely showed fatigue. Her compound eyes seemed duller than usual, and her forearms moved with less precision. Chief Morrison, more concerns about our security? Questions, Director. When was the last time a living being reviewed your scanner update code? Velshara's antennae twitched. Why would we? The AI handles verification. It is far more thorough than any organic mind could be. Who programmed the AI? The architects, a species of pure logic. They created most of our automated systems thousands of years ago. Are the architects still around? They transcended physical form approximately 6,000 years ago. We maintain their systems, but the core programming is unchanged. Morrison and Zhao exchanged glances. So no one has actually looked at the base code in 6,000 years. There is no need. It works perfectly. Director, my team has identified a 3-millisecond blind spot in the scanner refresh cycle. During that window, the system isn't actively reading biosignatures. Velshara's posture shifted into something Morrison recognized as dismissal. We are aware of the refresh cycle. It is irrelevant. No biological entity can exploit such a brief window. Unless someone has programmed the system to help them. Zhao interjected. The room went very quiet. Velshara's forearms froze in mid-gesture. You are suggesting someone has compromised the architect's work? Impossible. The security on those systems is absolute. So was your station security, Morrison said quietly, until we started asking questions. Velshara stood silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, less certain. What do you propose? Let Lieutenant Zhao examine the full system architecture. Give her access to the central network logs, and in the meantime increase monitoring during the refresh windows. You want me to tell the Coalition Council that their security might be compromised based on a 3-millisecond gap in the intuition of guards who have been here less than 3 weeks. I want you to verify your systems, Morrison said. We're not saying they're definitely compromised. We're saying they should be checked. When was the last time anyone looked? Velshara's antennae drooped. Never, because we believed they were perfect. Nothing is perfect, Director. We learned that the hard way. You can learn it the easy way, or you can wait until something goes wrong. Velshara authorized the access. Zhao disappeared into the Coalition's data systems like a diver entering deep water, and at every checkpoint human guards continued their watch, paying special attention to those 3-millisecond windows when the scanners blinked. Jenkins stood at Gate 7, cup of spiced chocolate in hand, watching beings pass through the archway. The scanner pulsed blue, 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 and Jenkins watched each pulse, waiting for the flicker that would prove their paranoia was wisdom after all. The alarm started at 300 station time, when most species aboard Kepler 442b were in their rest cycles. The Xenobiology Research Wing, a high-security area 3 levels below the main concourse, sent out automated alerts that something had gone catastrophically wrong. Morrison was awake and moving before the second alarm sounded. Years of military training meant she slept light and woke fast. She had her comm open before she was fully dressed. Status report. Lieutenant Zhao's voice came through tense and clipped. Containment breach in xenobiology. Class 9 pathogen. The automated systems have sealed the wing, but something triggered the alarm. Security scanners show no unauthorized access. On my way. Get Director Velshara up and find out which guards were watching the checkpoints near that wing. Morrison reached the xenobiology wing within minutes. The corridors were filled with Coalition security personnel who looked confused and frightened. They gathered near the sealed blast doors, checking their data pads and finding nothing. The scanners showed no breaches. The logs showed no unauthorized entry. According to every automated system, nothing was wrong except for the pathogen containment that had somehow been opened. Velshara arrived moments later, her forearms moving in agitated patterns. This is impossible. The containment systems have multiple redundancies. They cannot fail, but they did, Morrison said flatly. Who was working in there? Dr. Shenkor, a microbiologist. She is authorized. The scanners would have logged anyone else entering. Morrison keyed her comm. Chief Morrison to all units. I need to know who was on duty at checkpoints near Xenobiology Wing Level 3 between 200 and 300. Report immediately. Corporal Okonkwo's voice came through first. Ma'am, I was at Junction 17 about 50 meters from Xenobiology access. I saw Dr. Shenkor enter at 0237. You saw her or the scanner confirmed her? Both, ma'am. But there was something weird. She kind of blurred for a second as she went through the checkpoint. Like the image stuttered. Happened right during that 3-millisecond window Lieutenant Zhao told us about. Morrison's blood went cold. Did you see her leave? Negative, ma'am. Still in there as far as I know. Velshara was accessing the security logs. The scanners showed Dr. Shenkor entered at 0237, as the corporal said. Biosignature confirmed. Authorization verified. She should still be inside. Open the doors, Morrison ordered. The containment breach protocol requires now, Director. Velshara overrode the safety protocols. The massive blast doors ground open, revealing the xenobiology wing's sterile interior. Emergency lights cast everything in red. And standing near the containment vault, looking confused and terrified, was Dr. Shenkor. She was a member of a species that resembled a bipedal salamander, her skin glistening with mucus that served as protection from contaminants. She held her upper limbs up in a gesture of surrender when she saw the crowd at the door. I did not do this, she said in the universal trade language. I came for routine checks and found the vault open. I triggered the alarm immediately. Morrison pushed past the Coalition security, her hand on her sidearm but not drawing it. She examined the containment vault. The locks had been opened using proper authorization codes. The pathogen samples had been removed. And next to the vault, a data port showed signs of recent access. Lieutenant Zhao, Morrison said into her comm. Get down here. Someone copied the research data. Velshara approached Dr. Shenkor, her compound eyes studying the terrified scientist. The logs show you entered at 0237. Did you see anyone else?
No one. I came in and found this.
Wait. Okonkwo's voice came through the comm again. Ma'am, I just remembered something. At 0243, I saw Dr. Shenkor pass back through my checkpoint heading toward the commercial sector. I thought she had finished her work. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Shenkor, who was clearly still in the xenobiology wing. That is impossible, Velshara said. She is here, which means the one Okonkwo saw wasn't her, Morrison said grimly. She activated her comm to all security frequencies, human and coalition, full lockdown. Now. No one moves through any checkpoint without physical verification by guards. Scanners are not to be trusted. Chaos erupted as coalition security tried to process an order that contradicted everything they understood about station security. But Morrison's team moved with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, armed human guards were at every major junction, and Morrison had divided them into pairs with coalition security personnel. Listen carefully, Morrison broadcast to her team. We're looking for someone who can fool the scanners. Watch during the 3-millisecond refresh window. If you see anything that looks wrong, blurs, flickers, doesn't match reality, stop them. Use physical barriers if needed. Do not rely on what the scanners tell you. Zhao arrived at the xenobiology wing and immediately began analyzing the data port. Her fingers flew over her portable terminal, eyes scanning lines of code that appeared faster than any human should be able to read them. Got something, she said after 10 minutes that felt like hours. The data was copied to an external device. The transfer happened at 0239. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for and grabbed specific research files. This wasn't random theft. This was targeted espionage. Can you trace where they went? The station logs show Dr. Shenkor leaving at 0243, but the biosignature has some weird artifacts in it. Like the data is corrupted or... Zhao paused, her expression going cold. Or it's been artificially generated. Morrison turned to Velshara. How long have your scanners been able to recognize fake biosignatures? They cannot, Velshara said, but her voice shook. That is the entire point. Biosignatures are unique and cannot be replicated. Unless someone has been teaching your scanners to accept fake ones, Zhao said, her fingers still flying over her terminal. Chief, I think I know what's happening. The updates to the scanner software haven't just created blind spots. They've created a whitelist of ghost signatures. During the 3-millisecond refresh window, if someone transmits one of these ghost signatures, the scanner will read them as whoever the ghost is pretending to be. So someone has been walking around this station for who knows how long, and your scanners have been seeing them as authorized personnel, Morrison said. Velshara's forearms trembled. How long? How long has this been happening? Based on the update logs, the first compromised update was implemented 41 years ago. It's been refined gradually with each subsequent update. Whoever did this has been planning it for decades. The implications crashed over them like a wave. 41 years of potential breaches. 41 years of someone walking through the most secure station in coalition space, stealing secrets, and leaving no trace because everyone trusted the perfect scanners. Morrison's comm crackled. Chief, this is Jenkins at Gate 7. I've got movement heading your way. One individual moving fast through the commercial sector. Scanners identify them as a maintenance worker named Trelvex, but they're moving wrong. Too fast, too purposeful. Intercept and hold. All units converge on commercial sector. Physical verification only. I don't care what the scanners say. Morrison, Zhao, and a team of mixed human and coalition security ran toward the commercial sector. The station's corridors had never seemed so long. Behind them, Velshara followed, her 4 legs carrying her with desperate speed. They reached the commercial sector to find a standoff. Jenkins and 3 other human guards had formed a physical barrier across the corridor. A being that looked exactly like the maintenance worker Trelvex stood facing them, holding what looked like a data storage device. The scanners confirm I am Trelvex, the being said calmly. I am authorized to be here. Let me pass. No, Jenkins said simply, rifle held ready. The being's form flickered just for a moment, and then it changed. The appearance of Trelvex melted away like a hologram failing, revealing something underneath. A species Morrison didn't recognize, tall and angular with skin that seemed to shift colors to match its surroundings. Fascinating, the being said, its voice different now. 41 years of perfect infiltration, and I'm caught by guards watching with their primitive eyes instead of trusting advanced technology. The irony is almost beautiful. Morrison stepped forward, weapon drawn. Who are you? What species? The being smiled, if the expression could be called that. We are the Veil, We have walked among you for generations, learning, adapting, stealing. Your coalition is powerful, but you became complacent. You trusted your perfect systems, and we made those systems trust us. You've been compromising the scanner updates, Zhao said. For 4 decades, we have had access to your most sensitive research, your military capabilities, your diplomatic secrets, all because no one questioned the machines. No one verified what the sensors said was true. The Veil operative looked at Morrison. Until humans arrived and did what they always do. They questioned everything. Velshara pushed through the crowd, her compound eyes fixed on the infiltrator. You have violated coalition space, stolen our research, potentially exposed us to knowing your weaknesses, the Veil finished. Knowledge is power, and you gave it freely. Morrison nodded to Jenkins. Take it into custody. Physical restraints. And get me a list of every other scanner anomaly that's been reported in the past 41 years. If there's one of them, there are more. As the guards moved to secure the infiltrator, Morrison turned to Velshara. The director stood froze 3 weeks after the breach. The Coalition Security Headquarters looked different. Guards stood at every checkpoint, representing a dozen different species. They worked in mixed pairs, one trained by human security forces, one coalition personnel learning new protocols. The scanners still operated, pulsing their blue light, but now living eyes watched alongside them. Morrison stood in the main security center watching dozens of monitors that showed checkpoints across the station. Velshara approached, moving with more caution than the confident strides she had displayed when they first met. The final report from the investigation team, Velshara said, handing Morrison a data tablet. You should know what we found. Morrison scrolled through the report. 17 Veil operatives had been discovered on Kepler 442b alone. They had been present for periods ranging from 6 months to 38 years. The ghost protocol that allowed them to spoof biosignatures had been refined through 47 software updates, each one carefully designed to avoid triggering diagnostic alerts. The network analysis shows similar infiltrations on 43 coalition stations. Velshara continued, her voice heavy. We estimate several hundred Veil operatives have been active throughout coalition space. All because we trusted our systems and never verified with our own senses. How much did they take? Research data, military specifications, diplomatic communications, decades of information that gave them detailed knowledge of our capabilities and intentions. Velshara's antennae drooped. They knew everything about us. We knew nothing about them. Morrison set down the tablet. What will the coalition do? The council has mandated complete security reform across all coalition space. Every automated checkpoint must now have living guards as redundancy. Every security system must undergo regular verification by trained personnel, and we have requested assistance from humanity in training these personnel. You want us to teach other species to be paranoid? We want you to teach them to be vigilant, Velshara corrected. There is a difference I have learned. Paranoia is irrational fear. Vigilance is rational caution. Humans learned this through their difficult history. Now we must learn it from you. Movement on one of the monitors caught Morrison's attention. She watched as a coalition member passed through a checkpoint. The scanner pulsed blue, confirming identity. And next to the scanner, a Velsharan guard and a human guard both watched carefully, noting the passage and comparing what they saw to what the scanner reported. It's going to be a long adjustment period, Morrison said. Your species have known peace for so long that the idea of constant watchfulness seems foreign. Some of our members resist the changes, Velshara admitted. They say we are becoming like the younger species, suspicious and aggressive. They say we are losing what made us civilized. What do you say? Velshara was quiet for a moment. I say that civilization without security is merely a target. The Veil taught us this. They studied our peace, our trust, our certainty that we had evolved beyond such concerns, and they used all of it against us. Ambassador Chen entered the security center looking pleased. Chief Director, the Council has officially approved humanity's application for full coalition membership. The ceremony will be in 1 week. Morrison raised an eyebrow. That's earlier than expected. We haven't finished the full integration period. The Council felt that humanity has already demonstrated its value to the coalition, Chen said with a slight smile. Apparently, preventing a decades-long security breach was sufficient proof of compatibility. Velshara made a gesture with her forearms that Morrison had learned indicated respectful acknowledgement. Humanity brought us a gift we did not know we needed. You reminded us that technology is a tool, not a replacement for judgment and awareness. The Council wishes to honor this contribution. Over the following days, Morrison watched as the security culture of the Coalition began to shift. It was subtle at first. Guards who had stood their posts with boredom began to pay attention, realizing that their role was not ceremonial. Engineers who had trusted diagnostics absolutely began running verification protocols. Even species that had not experienced conflict in millennia started asking questions about their security systems. Private Jenkins had become something of a celebrity. The guard who first noticed the scanner anomalies was interviewed by Coalition media and asked to help train new security personnel. Morrison found him in a training room, demonstrating to a group of mixed species how to watch during the 3-millisecond refresh window. The key is not to watch the scanner, Jenkins explained to his audience. Watch the person. Your eyes will catch things machines miss. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling. The scanner is probably right, but you need to verify. A young Velsharan in the group raised one of her arms, but we were taught that our feelings are less reliable than data. Data is only as good as the system collecting it, Jenkins replied. If the system is compromised, the data lies. Your eyes can't be hacked. Your instincts can't be programmed. They're not perfect, but they're yours. Morrison felt a presence beside her and turned to find Velshara watching the training session. Your Private Jenkins is an excellent instructor, the director said. Many of our younger security personnel request to be assigned to stations with human partners. He's a good soldier. They all are. Chief Morrison, I must ask you something. When you first arrived and insisted on posting guards, did you truly believe our security was compromised? Or were you simply following procedure? Morrison considered the question carefully. Honestly, I hoped your security was as good as you said, but I've seen too many good people die because someone assumed a system was perfect. So I followed the only procedure that's never failed me. Trust people first. Verify everything else second. Wisdom earned through suffering, as Ambassador Chen said. The worst kind of wisdom, Morrison agreed, but the most reliable. The membership ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, a space so large it had its own weather system to accommodate species from different environments. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended. Humans were formally welcomed as the 348th species to join the coalition, and as part of the ceremony, Ambassador Chen was invited to speak. He kept it brief, knowing that humans were not yet comfortable with long speeches in these formal settings, but his final words resonated through the hall. Humanity brings to the coalition a perspective shaped by conflict and challenge. We have made every mistake there is to make, and we carry the scars to prove it. But we also bring the knowledge that peace is not the absence of threats, but the constant vigilance that keeps threats at bay. We are honored to share this knowledge, and to learn from the wisdom you have gathered over millennia. Together we will be stronger than either of us could be alone. After the ceremony, Morrison found herself back at her favorite checkpoint, Gate 7, where Jenkins still maintained his regular post. She stood beside him for a moment, watching the endless stream of beings pass through the scanner. Blue pulse. Blue pulse. Blue pulse, does it ever get boring, Private? She asked. Every single day, ma'am, Jenkins replied with a slight grin. But I figure boring is good. Boring means the system is working and we're just backup. The day it gets exciting is the day something went wrong. That's a good way to look at it. A young Velsharan guard approached, one of the new recruits who had completed the revised training program. She arranged herself at the checkpoint opposite Jenkins, mimicking his stance and watchful posture. Gate 7 secure, she reported, her voice carrying the careful formality of someone new to their duty, ready to maintain watch. Welcome to the most boring job in the galaxy, Jenkins said cheerfully. The scanner will do all the work. We're just here in case it doesn't. I understand, the Velsharan said. We trust the scanner, but we verify with our eyes. Exactly. Morrison left them to their watch and headed back to her office. Velshara fell into step beside her, her 4 legs matching Morrison's pace easily. A question. Chief Morrison, if I may. Of course, Director. Do you think we will ever return to fully trusting our technology? Or have humans changed the coalition permanently? Morrison thought about it as they walked through corridors that now felt familiar rather than alien. I think trust has to be earned continuously. not assumed permanently. Your technology is incredible, far beyond anything humans have developed, but it was built by imperfect beings, and it operates in an imperfect galaxy. Checking it, verifying it, maintaining healthy skepticism about it doesn't diminish its value. It just acknowledges reality. So we can never truly be at peace. No, Morrison said gently. You can be at peace. You just can't be complacent. There's a difference. Peace with vigilance is still peace. It just lasts longer. They reached Morrison's office, and Velshara paused at the doorway. The council has asked me to oversee the new security integration program. I have suggested that you serve as co-director. Your expertise and perspective would be invaluable in training coalition security forces across all member worlds. Morrison felt the weight of the offer. It meant years more of service, of teaching species that had known peace for millennia how to maintain it through